Welcome to the Service Drive Revolution podcast with your hosts, Chris, the Bulldog Collins, and Gary Daniel, the G-Man.
Welcome, everybody, to Service Drive Revolution. How's everybody doing? You guys don't have mics. You can't say anything.
Unless you're holding this magic blue box, nobody can hear you.
So we have an exciting podcast today for a couple reasons, but one is we're at the Top Dog event today, and we have the $50,000 Service Manager Challenge, and we have the finalists in the room for the $50,000 Service Manager Challenge, which is a big deal. So for anybody who doesn't know, the challenge is who can kind of better their best and improve their CSI, so their customer satisfaction, their profitability, and their effective labor rate, which kind of drives profitability the most, and then write an essay. And the idea behind the essay is that it's an inspiration to new managers coming in, because this is a tough thing. And so everybody who entered this, we had the most entries ever this year, over 20, which was amazing. And you guys are very special because you're the top by a long shot. But I will tell you this, as we sit here right now, we do not know who the winner is.
Nope.
Because it's really close at the top.
Yeah, it's tough this year. Tough.
Yeah. And so you guys did an amazing job. And so the purpose of this, and I want this podcast to be something that is an inspiration to service managers that are out there, because I really have a passion for this. So does G-Man, that can be the loneliest place in business, not just a dealership, just because you get the least amount of training, the least amount of support. It's not sexy, it's not sales, but you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and every customer is coming your way, and you have to create magic. And so
the upside is dramatic.
Yeah.
If you do it right and you do it well, like, you basically rule your universe right there.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're very proud of you in this room.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Let's have the tone, because everybody in here is a pro. Let's have the tone of inspiring whoever's listening to this, that this is all mental. The reason why you're here is because of mindset, not because you were born with some special gift or anything. It was a mindset. It was hard work, and we don't need to sugarcoat that, because it isn't easy. But when we go around and talk, let's make that the focus. That understanding that there's managers listening to this, that their dealers won't invest in them, that they've never been trained. The only example they have is the manager before them, and the market's changing, the manufacturers are changing, and it's getting harder and harder. And so, the purpose of the challenge is to create a path that we have case studies like what you guys have created, that we can show, hey, there is a better way. So let's make that the spirit of this, of giving back to our industry, if everybody's up for that. And we'll drink some tequila and have some fun too. I can barely move my arms. So Gary's son, Blake, I don't know if you guys have met Blake, but you'll meet him tomorrow.
He'll be here tonight. He's on his way down.
Handsome kid. He's working for us during the summer while he's, he goes back to college at the end of August, but he's working for us, and he goes to the gym with us in the morning, and he has these he's like his mom. He has these crazy workout ideas. So his thing is to do dumbbell curls. So today at the gym for us was chest and arms, to do dumbbell curls, but to go down the rack and then back down the rack.
Yeah.
So I started at like 20, and then I went all the way to 45, and then back down. And it might sound easy, but it's BS.
It's really
in
hard.
The worst way.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
It feels easy in the beginning because you got the light ones and you're going, okay, this can't be that hard. And then you get down to the end and you're like, God, I got to go back. And no rest. So it's like 50 reps, like solid with no rest.
And every time I go, like, this feels like it weighs 1,000,000 pounds.
Yeah.
This little magazine, if you're listening and not watching. So let's hand that around and let's everybody, they can introduce themselves.
Why don't we start? Just hand that down to Don. Why don't we start down there with Don? We'll just work our way around the room.
So just, where you're from, and then we'll get to the questions.
I'm Don Volk. I'm from Cody, Wyoming. Denny Manholt Chevrolet Buick GMC.
Cody.
John?
What is that? 3 County? Is it 3 County? Am I right? 11. Oh, 11. Okay.
What's 11 County mean?
They on the license plates, well, at least as far as I understand it, when I went to school in Wyoming, and on the license plates they have the county in front of it, and so you know where the guy's from based on his license plate number. Wow. And so like, oh, that dude's from 3 County or that dude's from 11 County. Like they hate each other.
That's why they say the Niners are crazy. If you see a 9 plate, just don't.
What's 9? Which one's 9?
I believe it's Grable.
Okay.
There in the middle of nowhere.
I went to school in Laramie.
Yeah.
Laramie, Wyoming.
What number was that?
I don't remember. 12? Was it 12? I think it's 12. I'm not sure. I don't know. Somebody put a comment somewhere on YouTube or in the show notes or something. Let us know.
What school did you go to in Wyoming?
I went to Wyoming Tech.
Yeah.
Oh. Wyotech.
Wyotech.
Mm-hmm.
The original.
The original Wyotech when it was in Wyoming. When it was actually out in Wyoming. I actually took a pilgrimage out there when I drove Blake out to Colorado. My son went to college in Colorado State, which is in Fort Collins, which is where we used to party. So we'd drive down from Laramie to Fort Collins. So when I took him out to go to college, we stopped at Wyotech just to check it out. It's closed. It's not in great condition. It's not a thing anymore, I don't think.
Wyoming could win like best looking state. It's so beautiful there.
Not that spot.
No, but
Not
there's
that spot.
parts.
Yeah, Jackson Hole, the eastern side of the state. Laramie's the high desert. It's flat. It's flat out there. Anyways, I hijacked you, Don. Sorry. Dave, go.
I'm Dave Cissi from St. Louis, Missouri at Mercedes-Benz of St. Louis.
I'm Damon Eagon from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada at Sherwood Ford.
Yeah,
Throw that dude.
The Canadians making an appearance. Bump.
My name is Mike Rabbits. Everybody just calls me Rabbit. I'm from Johnson City, Tennessee, Johnson City Ford.
Yeah.
Rabbits.
I am Roberta Carron. I'm from Denny Manholt Honda in Bozeman, Montana.
Bozeman.
And that would be a 6.
Oh, a 6 county.
Oh, you guys do that too?
Yes.
It's a thing.
Thank you, sir. Gareth Rowlands from Honda Morristown in Morristown, Tennessee, via the way of Anglesey in North Wales.
North Wales.
Ben Cooper, Gastonia Nissan, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Nice. I'll throw it to Don. So let's talk, Don, about the mental part of this, because everybody here started at one point and dramatically increased your performance. And I always kind of believe, but I want to hear from everybody that 90% of that is mental. Getting past what, previous things you had learned, known, and change and all that. So what was your initial feeling, Don?
Well, I think probably some of my hardest or my biggest hills to get over were the games. As Jair and I talk about, is I'm not much of a gamer, wasn't much of a gamer. I didn't go to work to have fun. So that was big for me. I think probably the biggest change for me was when we came to the meeting as a group, and I got the general manager here with me, and the corporate guys there, knowing that we were going to have the support to
try
effect
some
the changes.
stuff.
You can't do this on your own. You can want to all day long, but if you don't have the support of your general manager and you don't have the support of the store, you're not going to change an awful lot. So I think for me that was the biggest thing, knowing that I had the support I needed to make the changes, and the rest of it just became pretty easy when I worked with my guys, and we just kind of went down the road together. So that was.
What? So you said that I didn't believe work should be fun.
Yeah, I for many years it was games. Well, we didn't play games.
This is serious stuff.
Put your games away. Leave that at home, and let's just get to work and get her done. So it was a foreign concept to me, and been at it a long time. So it was a little harder for me to change than some of the younger guys can take that change a little probably quicker than I could. But anyway,
How do you feel about it now? About having fun?
I enjoy it. We do things a little bit different in our small store because there's just a few of us, but it makes the day go by. Keeping the techs involved is big. You know, they all kind of come in one at a time. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. And, you know, pretty soon everybody's in.
Mm.
You know, it just takes a while, and you just got to keep at it. And they all come around, but it just takes some time to get everybody to buy in, so to speak, to drink the Kool-Aid, I guess is what I used to call it.
They don't resist for very long.
Right.
They'll hold out. They don't want to.
Till
Oh,
the
I
money
don't play
starts
games.
rolling in, the games become a lot more fun.
Yeah, that's it. They see some guy walk out with a fistful of $5 bills, and they're like, "Okay, wait a minute. I want to play this game. This is a fun game."
Yeah, or they see other people having fun, and they're like, I want to be in on that.
Yeah.
It's natural that
Yeah.
you want to be in on the fun. That's good.
Awesome.
What did you think initially?
I didn't think it was possible. I didn't. I knew we could improve. I knew I was in a rut, so to speak. Moved into a new building a couple of years ago, and the new building had a lot of challenges. And I just honestly didn't think we can do it. I really didn't. I thought we were just kind of where we were, and that was the way it was going to be. But I knew something had to change. Luckily for me, I've got a general manager, that 30-ish-year-old general manager that is all on board, probably more on board than I am. And with her help and dedication, you know, we pulled it off. It was a little struggle. The technicians, or people in the car business, seem to be a little bit old-fashioned and stubborn, more than normal. And so I had a couple struggles. I had to get some people over the hurdle. I had a lot of people that had worked for me for a long time. And actually, I think the addition of new members to the group really, really helped. They were the ones that didn't have all the old preconceived bad habits and bad notions and bad philosophies. And the new guys were willing to accept it. And, you know, there's a little bit of animosity for just a short time. And once the others saw, hey, you know, we're not hurting anybody. We're not drawing blood, and everybody's happy, and we're going home and actually making more money, and everybody's doing better. And, you know, the best thing is that the feeling that I'm doing better for so many people. And so many people work for me and making their lives better, and, you know, and my own.
Yeah. No. And does it, do you feel like it transcends to other parts of your life?
Oh, definitely.
Like your personal life?
Yeah.
Like
I saw myself in a little bit of a rut, kind of that, maybe a little bit when you said, well, work's not supposed to be fun, you know, and I guess this misery is just the way that we've got to be, and we got to live, and it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't. You know?
Yeah.
I started reading that book that you suggested, Disrupt You.
Yeah.
Is that what that is? And the one of the concepts he has in there is self-disruption, which I think is easy or is interesting. He talks about, like, you know, businesses that disrupted an industry, that changed. Like an easy one is Uber, right? I mean, Uber changed the transportation industry, the cab industry for good, basically. One app, and that's it. It's completely different. And he says, in order to get there, you have to disrupt yourself. Like, you have to take your mindset and break it down and create a disruption in your own mind so that you can think clear enough to actually move to the next level. Like, you can't see Uber until you disrupt your own mind, which just sounds like what's, you know, between Don and you, Dave, that sounds like what's been happening.
It's a funny thing, because if we were sitting at a table 10 years ago and they were there pitching us Uber, we could, between us, come up with 100 reasons why it wouldn't work.
Right.
I mean, especially in big cities, because they have taxi contracts, you know, with the city,
Unions.
and there's taxes, and you know, same thing with Airbnb. Like, a lot of cities, their revenue is on taxing hotels, right?
Yeah.
That's how they pay for their football stadiums. It's like all kinds of stuff. And so it's funny how it's mindset.
It's funny, when I first did Airbnb, I was like, wait a minute, like, I'm going to rent a room in some guy's house? Like, it's such a weird thing. Like, it
was only weird when you rented the house and the guy was staying there with us.
I just stepped right into that.
We went to Florida once. What were we in
Hey,
Florida
let's move
for?
on. Damon, what do you got to say? Let's get to the next.
No, we were doing a meeting down there, and it was during the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
And so all the hotels were sold out, and he he's like, oh, look at this house. It was a cool house in Daytona Beach, right off the beach, close to the beach. And when we landed, the guy's like, yeah, okay, we'll see you there. And, and I kind of got the feeling like he was staying there. And I asked, he's like, oh, yeah, you guys are just renting a room. And I'm like, no. How much for you to leave? We made a deal.
It was considerably more, but it was worth it.
He left. That'd be wouldn't that be weird at our age to have like a roommate?
Yeah.
For a few days.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like Airbnb and that stuff, like it took somebody who wouldn't listen to anybody else's reason. Really. I mean, you would love Damon, that book, Disrupt You.
Oh yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Have you read it? Yeah, it's great, right?
Oh, you got that one? Oh man.
Did you tell me to read it?
I can't get ahead of him. I can't. I'm at my match over here. I can't.
Well, I'm only halfway through it, but it's great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
Any mental blocks?
I mean, I walked into a store that, was huge, 35 technicians, 5 advisors, and losing money every month. There were many nights I came home, said to my wife, I said, I don't know why I took this job. This is the craziest thing. I can't fix this. And that's what I've done in my career is I've fixed dealerships. And
yeah, you like a challenge.
Yeah, this was my 4th one to turn around, and I didn't know if I could do it, and I needed an edge, and it was just like you talked about, Gary. I mean, it's the mental breakdown of the mindset, thinking that you know what you're supposed to do, but it's not working. So you've got to tear everything that you know down and start from the bottom again, and figure out a different way to do it and a better way to do it. I think all too often what happens is we get pigeonholed into, this is the way a service department is supposed to work. This is what a service manager is supposed to do. And that's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
And there is so much more to it. Like you could take case studies and examples from just about every business and incorporate them into our own, which is what we ended up doing, in conjunction with the training and the concepts that we've gotten through this program. Once we had that foundation and rolled it out and got everybody on board, which was extremely hard because nobody believed it. Nobody believed that we could go from losing money to making money, from technicians billing at 160 hours to 250 hours, from service advisors making no money to making 5 figures in a month. Nobody thought that we could do it until we started to see the results. When everybody got on board and then they started to see the results, now all of a sudden it just became a boulder rolling down a hill. You couldn't stop it.
Mm.
And now we've got technicians, rolling over 300 hours a month. We've got advisors making 5 figures, and their lives are less stressed and they're happier because they know what they need to do. They have the accountability and they've got the accessibility to make the decisions to make their customers happy. So it was a big challenge, but we're going full bore right now.
It's funny to me a lot of times to look at a challenge of a store and how much the employees fight us in the beginning and tell us it's not going to work, and they do everything they can, and then 90 days later they're making more money,
Mm-hmm.
their job's easier, they feel better, but they rarely come back and say thank you.
He never come back and say thank you.
I'm like, I want to go like, you remember that time? Like, I've had people tell me I'm ruining their life before. Like, and you're like, really? I'm ruining your life? Like, no, I'm making your life better. You're stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
When I started there, our advisors were on a straight salary. And we took them off of a salary and onto a variable commission plan, to which they wanted no part of.
Yeah, of course.
And funny enough, I actually had one of our advisors come into my office last week and say, thank you. Thank you for pushing me to do this, because my life is so much better now. And I never thought it would work, but you proved me wrong. And like, she actually thanked me for it, which is something that we almost as service managers never get, as a thank you for anybody.
No, that's amazing. That's a special moment.
It was very much so a very special moment that I will take with me wherever I go.
Yeah, get your iPhone out and go, okay, wait a minute. Hold on. talk into this.
Yeah. It just became an Instagram story.
When I'm down, I'm going to play this for myself. Yeah, right.
Good.
Rabbit.
Go Rabbit. My story obviously is a bit different than probably everybody else in this room because I was on the variable side before I came to the fixed op side. So being a sales manager and then coming to the service department, first of all, everybody thought, oh, what's this guy doing in here? He thinks he can come in here and run the service department.
Yeah, there's a fox in the hen house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the sales guy in the service department.
And the crazy thing is that, as I started implementing the program, they thought it was my idea, which, it was kind of fun. They didn't, until they started really getting into the training and watching the videos, they didn't realize that, I was getting this information elsewhere. They thought, oh, the sales guy's coming in, he's trying to put all these crazy games and rules and, stuff in place. And so there was pushback because of where I came from versus, a lot of you guys are just trying to change what you were doing and what they were doing all at once. And basically I was the new guy and they thought I was trying to bring in some new way of doing stuff, which I was.
We have that in common, but the other way, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Because when I was trying to fix a sales department when I was running a dealership,
right,
they were telling me, oh, you're the service guy. Like,
what do you know about sales?
And I'm you've
never dessed a deal.
I know that we're not selling enough cars.
Yeah.
I don't know everything, but I know that.
Well, and the cool thing is that numbers are numbers, regardless of which side of the equation you're on. And so what I like most about the service side is that there's so much sales opportunity. It's amazing. And I tell my advisors all day long, I say, hey, how about go hang out with the sales guy today and see how many ups he gets.
Yeah.
And then come back here and work your station tomorrow and see how many ups you get. And what you have to do for an up and what he has to do or she has to do for an up, it's unbelievably different because the reality is we're bringing people. I mean, there's so many, units in operation and, we have opportunities that are just constant. They're just coming in and you have to make the most of that opportunity. And, you talk about, lost leaders, you either make a friend or you make a sale, and so we've really tried to implement that and, change their mindset of, I'm not just here to, write up an oil change. I'm here to literally, look at their vehicle, see what's going on, check their history. I mean, all the stuff that we're supposed to do. It's just amazing how much of that they weren't doing. And it was just because nobody really held them accountable. So, but there's so much sales associated with that as well. And that's what's, so I really I've kind of honed in on the customer side and the sales side. And a lot of the other stuff's just falling in place.
They're lucky, right? Because it's one of the few industries where you got somebody out front making customers for you.
Right.
Like, because they got guys out there selling cars and then shoving them into the back. And, you just got this steady stream of people coming at you.
Right.
I mean, you think about it, you're like, oh, God, I'm so busy today. But thank goodness, because if you're out front, you got to make your own destiny.
Right.
Well,
and we spend money. We all spend money marketing and trying to get customers into the lane. But think about what you spend to get a customer into the showroom.
Yeah.
And it's significantly more.
Yeah, what is it, like $650 or something?
Yeah, NADA's last stat was $650 a client
exactly.
to get him in the drive.
So then,
or get him in the showroom to sell a car. Yeah.
And so then, and we've talked, Circle of Life and all the stuff that's in there. It's amazing how they just didn't see it that way. And it's like, that money was spent to gain that customer, and initial visit, a lot of times we'd run them off.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we got to do a better job. So
good.
For sure. Good job.
First of all, let's just talk about how you wanted to put Dos Artes in a margarita, the world's greatest tequila. She's like, this would be great in a margarita. Roberta, come on.
Ruined it.
You're killing me. You're killing me. I like margaritas, okay?
Oh, I love margaritas too, but Patron, that's what we do in a margarita.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had this.
It's good, right?
It was absolutely
you need more.
outstanding. Oh, yes, I'm empty.
We're going to get you...
It dried up.
We're going to have some tequila. What was your... were there any, hang-ups, change, mental blocks?
Yeah. I walked in I came from Denver into a little dealer in Montana. And when I walked in, my first thought was, holy cow, I feel like I walked back into 1979. Because these guys that were in the shop were all friends, and, they hired somebody's son or whatever. So breaking that barrier was tough. And then, and I was hired on as a service advisor, and I had no desire to be a service manager. So 6 weeks after I got hired, I was offered the position, and I gave it some thought because I'd spent 25 years in this business, and their bottom line was always in the minus. And I'd been told many times in this business as a woman, I would never make it. And I had at one time people betting on how long I would last. And I'm still here, and a lot of them.
Well, they lost, huh?
Yeah, they did lose.
How do we get in on that money?
Right. So, I'd never wanted to be a service manager. Here I was a service manager, and it was kind of like I was being handed by my company, you need to produce this cake, but we're not giving you any ingredients. And you guys have been the Betty Crocker of this whole deal, and it's been fabulous.
What kind of cake did we make? Is it chocolate or vanilla? Or what is it?
The bestest ever. That's all I'll say.
The bestest.
But it's been it's nice to know that you've got my back if I have questions. Jair has been amazing when I've called him, and I'm like, I am just at a complete loss. I don't know what to do. My GM wants this, and I don't know that I can produce this in this store. And he gave me a different angle to look at, and it's working. Still got a couple of holdouts as far as technicians go, but for the most part, I got them all on board. And the ones that are the holdouts that have been there for 30 years, they're still a holdout, but they've discovered, they were scheduling their appointments. They had, instead of the advisors scheduling appointments, they were scheduling appointments for each technician. And so then when the technicians' appointments were done for the day, they went home. And I'm like, yeah, no,
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
we're not doing that. Yeah, we're not doing that. I said, I want you guys to schedule, this way. They've almost doubled their hours, the ATECs have. And I had actually asked one of my ATECs, I said, did you get a pay increase when the cell changed? He goes, yeah. So it's been good. The nice thing I saw with my advisors is the two guys I was working with when I was an advisor, they were both looking at other jobs because they weren't making it. They just weren't making it. And then when I stepped into the position and we started gamifying, they started walking with their heads a little higher, and they had a little money in their pockets. They were able to get money, get lunch from Burger King versus nothing. It's good. It's been good. And their pay has increased, and they're having a great time. It's kind of fun to watch them challenge each other in the different games. It's been good. I have nothing negative to say about it. The previous manager wanted nothing to do with it, and he did nothing but poo-poo it. And I had, like I said, I've done this for 25 years, so I didn't think I could learn anything new as a service advisor. I was wrong.
It's funny. I think a lot of times managers in our industry are scared because of consultants that have previously come in, right? So like our goal is to create a safe place and to make you look good. But a lot of consultants out there, their goal is to make managers look bad. I've experienced it when I worked in a store. Their goal is to make you look bad so they look good, right? Which is completely counterintuitive to really making a difference and moving things forward. But I think a lot of managers have been around a long time. That's been their experience. The consultants come in, they make them feel dumb because of you can find anything. You can go into our business and you can find things wrong, right? Nobody's perfect. And so it's, they point out the things that are wrong instead of making it a safe place. I think it's really important that this group that we have, that, we help each other, and it's a safe place for all of us to share ideas and ask questions and that sort of thing. Right.
Yeah.
Because it always is funny to me when managers are apprehensive, and it's like, no, come on, we'll help you.
I think I had my experience was a little bit different because, I got into this business because of you. I got into the front end because I was in the back working as a mechanic. And then Chris comes into our store as a consultant. He interviewed and felt like I could do something more, brought me out, taught me the business. And so I was kind of born from that. And so anytime when I was working at the dealer, anytime a pilot program, like any consulting, I'm like, yes, please bring him in because I wanted to learn. And so I'm like, if that guy can come teach me something, bring him in. But it was crazy the lack of content you would get. So I had one guy come in from the manufacturer and he sat in the parking lot across the street from us and watched the drive. And he had a notepad and he made a list of all the stuff that we were doing wrong. And he came in and for about, I don't know, say 40, 45 minutes, he had a meeting with me and he talked through the list and he tore it out and he handed it to me and he said, okay, I'll see you in 6 months. And that was it. I was like, what, you have any ideas? Like, can you help me out?
No, that happened to me too. And I actually ended up getting my money back, but we paid 10 grand for this consulting thing for parts. And the guy comes in and he like points out a bunch of stuff that, like, our parts department was amazing. Our manager was amazing. Yep. And same thing. They just
Joe was a staple. He was a staple.
Well, he found a couple things like,
you would,
it wasn't perfect, but he was amazing.
Yeah.
And he found a couple things and then no ideas. I'm like, well, yeah, but how do we what's the next level?
Right.
You're in all these stores consulting. What do you know? Like, what? Pay attention when you go into other stores and tell us what's working. Like, you're supposed to be the catalyst to spread the good ideas around, not just point out all the bad stuff. Right?
Right. I mean, that's it. Yeah.
If you're going around as a consultant to store to store to store, pay attention to the stuff that's working. You look like a genius. That's what we do.
Right.
Because you just share it with other people instead of just pointing out how you're bad. Like, that's kind of the thing. So I'm going to tell the numbers here really quick too. So the average for all 20, so if we just took your guys' numbers, these numbers would be insane. But the average for everybody who entered the challenge, the CSI was up 5.6%. The ELR was up $15.78. And the net to gross went from 10.8 to 27.5. So as a group, they're almost 30% net to gross. So
on average.
The national average is something like 6 or 7%. So that's more than 3 times the national average. Those are amazing numbers.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what hangups? Did you have hangups?
I mean, is it, hold on. I want to stop for one. Has it hit you guys yet? Like, this is like the top 1%?
Absolutely not.
No.
A couple of them look like they
walked in with a little swagger.
No, like they swallowed a butterfly or whatever. How would you say that?
Think about that. Like, there's places out there where they hit 3% net to gross. They're like, hey, we're killing it.
This is the quietest I've ever seen Don. It is. We got to get him more drinks.
So Don, I want to pause for 1 second too, because Don has the innate ability to know where Jair is at any given moment, no matter where he is in the globe. And so literally I'm sitting in my office, and if you guys have seen our office, I'm upstairs, right? I got my little box, my little tower up there, and my phone rings, and Jair's sitting in a chair across from me. We're having a conversation. I pick up the phone. I go, hello, Chris Collins' office. This is Gary. How can I help you? And he goes, hey, this is Don. Is Jair around? Oh, it just so happens he's right across it, and I just hand Jair the phone. It's happened like 3 or 4 times. Like, he just knows exactly where he's at any given moment. He can find him. He's got him on the radar.
So Gareth, you did have hangups?
Yeah. So when I first arrived at the store, which was a year last April, the shop itself had been through 3 service managers, I believe, in the space of about a year. The last guy walked out on him completely, received another job, and there was the advisors. I showed up, and the advisors were like, well, we didn't even know he was gone until he'd left. So I was left with this trusting, I show up, and I'm a younger guy. My whole entire staff is quite a bit older than I am, in a very country area where loyalty is a big thing, So
country area.
So
do you listen to country music?
Every now and again. Yeah, it's
it should be a requirement.
It'll grasp you and hold you tightly if you allow it to. So my wife is a big country fan, so it's something that's played quite often in the house. So these guys, they get this new younger guy that comes in, and he's a foreigner, which is a problem in itself sometimes. And I had zero trust from anybody. apart from Andrew, the GM. So, and I come in, and anybody that knows me knows I'm one of the most passionate people that you'll ever meet, and the most competitive person, I believe, to be alive. If we're playing tiddlywinks, I want to beat you, and I want to beat you over and over and over again. That passion carries into everything I do. So if we get anything less than 100 survey, I take it personally. So I check those things, and we get all these processes immediately in place, and these guys are just looking at me like, who are you? What are you doing? And that was before we got on the program. And when we got on the program, obviously those changes come across as well, and then it all started over again. It was like, hold on, we just started doing things the way you wanted us to, and now you're changing it up again, and that was a problem. It was difficult to get over, and when we explain things, we refer to it as climbing the mountain. We reached base camp number 1 when we first took over. We got a couple of things handled. We were following processes. We were taking care of our customers. Base camp number 1 was successful, and then at that point in time, we were looking around at each other like, okay, how do we get to the next step? How do we get there? And who's going to come with us? That was a big part of it too, because we had some people that were trying to tug us back. So trying to figure out who was worth, if they were fighting, if they were worth pulling up, and worth, throwing them on your back and bringing you with it to try and change that dynamic, that thought process, and just letting the people stay back, the ones that weren't going to be able to make it with us. So that was a big aspect of it. And thanks to you guys, the philosophies, the training, the encouragement, and the same sort of passion level. I'd say we've reached another couple base camps, we're slowly climbing, continuing to climb, and we're getting there. We're getting there.
That's good. That's great. That's the real deal right there.
It is the real deal. It's not like this little toy.
We're talking about the microphone we're handing around.
Hey, don't badmouth my box now. Come on.
I like the box until it malfunctioned.
Till it broke.
So, I mean, I could echo a lot of, things, probably a little bit of everything that I heard from each of you guys and ladies. Lady. The biggest thing is that I experienced pushback in some different areas, but, pay plans, for example, minimum standards. I think that was a big, fear for a lot of advisors. They had never heard of, and I hadn't.
That's a tough one for a lot of people.
In 20 years, I had never worked with a minimum standard or, had a minimum standard for my advisors, or that was tough. That was really tough. And
it's a common thing in sales, right, Rabbit?
Yeah. It was a fear for me to institute that to advisors that I felt like we're doing a pretty good job, because if we do the wrong thing and we mess up and we don't get it right, and we don't allow a good advisor to succeed because of maybe a poorly designed minimum standard, that kind of falls on me, or we don't set them up for success. Mm-hmm. We don't provide them the tools that they need to achieve those things. So that was a huge fear for me. But certainly I know it was probably tenfold for them, to hear that, hey, if you guys don't hit X amount of labor sales this, coming month, you're going to get written up. Next time you're going to get written up again, and then you're going to be let go. Or if you don't achieve national, level CSI, you're going to be let go as a result of that. It's huge.
That's only fair to the employee.
I'm sorry?
That's only fair to the employee.
Don said it's only fair to the employee.
But you know what? Going into it, having never heard that concept.
Yeah, it's a new idea.
It's
scary. You notice with minimum requirements that a lot of times they'll go right to the minimum requirement. And the thing that always really pisses me off about that is I'm always like, oh, well, I should have just made it what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of going like, where's little Johnny going to be okay? And they go right to it. Like, they can do it if they have to. It's just they never had a clear expectation,
We raised it in our store when...
you were raising it like every 6 months.
Yeah. But so they got accustomed to a certain level, and everybody was above it, and everybody was hitting bonus, everybody was doing well. But
there's always like two that are like for you that were right there.
They were just hovering.
Yeah.
And then there were two that were just like rock stars that were just in the stratosphere. Mm-hmm. And so I
like
said, all right,
Jair.
well, let's just raise it. And so we raised it up and dropped a couple of people below, and they freaked out. They were like, there's no way. We're never going to hit that. And I said, well, let's see. And then they hit it. And so it's like, and then we just said, okay, well, we just got to keep doing that incrementally to get those people up, because either they're going to fall off or they're going to rise up where everybody else is. Because the measure is the high performer is the measure of what's possible, not the low performer, right? The low performer is the one that's pulling everybody else down.
It's very rare that we'll get a financial statement and we'll analyze the service department. And you can go, most of the time, I can go right to the average customer pay sales per advisor and tell you if they're making money or not. Like if they're in the 15,000 or less per advisor on average, they're usually not making money.
Yeah.
It's got to be over 20. And same thing with gross protect. You can usually tell without ever seeing the financial. Yeah. And minimum requirement, that's the biggest one that minimum requirements fix is, they're there to sell CP labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Totally new concept for for fix.
No, it's
for
good.
us,
It's a good conversation.
The other thing too is, I think they thought the games and things that we were going to do and the tracking of numbers. I have a board in my office that every day I get in at 6:45 in the morning and start plugging numbers on the board, so that when they get there in the morning, they can see them. They had access to those numbers before, but the other advisors, and they even had access to each other's numbers. We didn't hide it from them, but seeing it on a board, and I use green and red, if they're meeting their minimum standards, and if they're, meeting their goals, they're in green. And if they're not, they're in red on the board. So, at first it was a lot of pushback there. They didn't really want to look at the board. They would come in and, they weren't so interested in it. And the more that became a habit and they realized it wasn't going away. They were so used to things coming and going. Mm-hmm. We would start something, or previous management would start something, it would come and go. And they thought, it's just going to go away. These games are going to go away.
They can outlast you.
Yeah, they'll outlast it. They'll see it through. And then I noticed they would get there in the morning, and before the meeting, they'd be peeking in to see the board. And slowly, and then when the one lead guy started to do that, the others would start to follow a little bit.
That's fun.
Yeah.
You're pulling the string.
Yeah, and even the guys that didn't have that super strong competitive edge, like maybe one or two of the other guys, like this guy over here, started to poke their competitive bone a little bit. So pushback, and again, echoing things everybody I think has said. I probably experienced a little bit of every bit of that. Maybe not much, your situation, but a little bit of all of that for sure.
Yeah, just for you're referring to Rabbit because he coming from sales and hearing that. Oh, you're a sales guy, right? It's funny. Mm-hmm. Are you guys excited about the event the next couple of days? Yeah. Do you wish we could just get to the winner so we weren't torturing you for 2 days? I want you guys to know from the bottom of my heart that everybody in here deserves to win, and to me, like, it's very moving, the effort and what you have done, and so we don't take it lightly. It's very inspiring and touching to us, for sure. And we can't we can't encourage you to I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, honestly, when I read those essays. It's amazing.
It's a pretty impressive group this year, because last year, we had some good entries and some of the essays were good, but this year, like, everybody took it to a new level. Like, it was like, we sat there one night and we read, there was 20 plus, responses, and we read them all, cover to cover, all of us. And it's hard to read all that and not be moved by it.
Yeah.
You're going through fire.
It affects you.
Yeah. You're charging through walls and pretty much against all odds, because, it's been said a few times, but people just don't believe. Like, it's just been this way for so long that it's just going to be this way. This is just how we are. We are good enough, and that's it. That's what it's going to be. And to crack the good enough it's a difficult thing. It's a really, really difficult thing. And you guys made it happen. So impressed.
The thing that's crazy to me is that when I read the essays, it's crazy to me that our industry is so shut off to it.
Yeah.
Like it's so shut off. It's I don't know. It affects me because I love our industry. And like, it's weird that it's so, fixed ops is so important. It's just going to get more important,
There isn't room for that.
We're stronger together than we are. The ego thing is okay in the car thing. I guess it's part of why the industry has done so well, but there does have to be a time where we're stronger together. And it definitely doesn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're as an industry, like we're going to face things that we have to be on the same page because, manufacturers are going to go direct to consumer. Things are going to change. And the one thing that they're going to need is the cars are going to break.
Yeah.
And they're going to need maintenance and they're going to need us. And so, there's a lot of talent in our industry, but it's muffled in a lot of ways. It's not encouraged and cultured and like grown. It's like, stay there and don't move.
I think they show you a lot more respect once you start making money.
Don said, I think they show you a lot more respect once you start making money.
Once you take a little bit of the pressure off their back and they don't feel like they're the Lone Ranger. Coming from sales, I'm sure that you many times look back and said, wow, if that back end could just help us out a little bit, I'd have a little bit more flexibility up here and maybe could try a few things. So I know in our store, the general manager, we had plenty of discussions over this, and some of them were I drug him down the hall kicking and screaming, but now that the back end's more than carrying its weight, he's a lot more receptive. Mm. A lot more willing to even take some chances up there. So I think that as we do better and as an industry, as we start making more money in our fixed operations, there'll be a little more respect for the back end, so to speak.
Yeah, the other part is that just how much our dealerships still run like separate businesses when really the focus needs to be the customer. Like, there's still a lot of, that's sales. That's service. And the customer's like, no, it's a car, like, you know what I mean? Like, imagine if you went to the Apple store with your iPhone and you're like, well, it doesn't work. And they're like, oh, well, that's the Taiwanese company that made that resistor. Go to them. Or like, no, you just want your phone fixed. You just want your car fixed. You just want a good deal on the car. That sort of thing. People, we're very, we have silos, and that, that's another thing that has to go away. It has to be from the customer's point of view, not our point of view.
Yeah. I remember my uncle, I tell the story all the time. So my uncle, like he worked for PG&E, which is Pacific Gas and Electric. So in California or Northern California, it's it's where we get our gas, electricity, all that stuff from. So he was, he's a blue collar guy, worked his whole life, saved all his money. And then he had this dream of buying a sports car, an expensive sports car. And so he's in his 70s now. And so he finally said, okay, I've got enough money to live the rest of my life. I'm going to take this chunk and I'm going to go buy a sports car. So he goes and spends a lot of money on a sports car and there's a problem with it. And so he takes it back to the service department and says, hey, there's this problem. So they order a part for him. And he says, okay, fine. So he leaves, doesn't hear anything. So he calls into the dealership. They put him to the parts department. And then he gets this story. He's telling me this story because I called him one time. I said, hey, Uncle Mike, how's the new car? What do you think? This and that. And he's like, oh, well, it's got a problem. And, well, how'd it go? And he says, yeah, I called the store and they said, well, you see, sir, we're running 3 separate businesses inside one business. And they sat and they explained to him exactly how siloed their company was. For what reason, I have no idea. But it's just crazy to me that we think that way still, and that we're allowed to function. I mean, here's a guy who lived his entire life to buy this car, and it's just like a buzzkill. He just loses all that momentum.
prior to Honda Morristown, I came from a dealership that was very much that way. If there was a sales guy that would cross the service drive, he would get eyed from the moment he stepped on it to the moment he walked off of it. And then if he attempted to walk back on it, he was stopped. I mean, that's genuinely the way we treat our salespeople. The two departments were very, very divided. And it does cause that barrier for customers. Upon my employment with Honda Morristown, our general manager, Andrew, our GSM, Greg Frazier, they're like brothers to me. And it makes my life so much easier that I can lean on those guys to take care of a service customer just as much as they can count on me to meet and greet somebody, give them a walk around of a vehicle, whatever we've got to do to be able to get that customer handled. And I think the sooner we, as the leaders of our industry, realize that it's about the customer experience, and it's about lifelong customers, not just that one visit where you can smack someone upside the head and make a killing off of them. You know,
Right.
it's not about that. It's about how you can gain that person's respect, make them a member of your family, and then they'll reach out then to their family members, their friends, and they'll bring people in. So that's something that I really have to brag on our store for. We don't have that divide. And it makes a tremendous difference. It really does.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody in closing and kind of conclusion, anybody have anything else you want to say? Roberta? Tequila.
Margarita. I was the advisor that did your training and looked at it going, okay, yeah, I've done this for too long. Not going to buy in. But now I'm the manager who knew nothing stepping into this position, and I'm a devotee. I feel like you guys are actually part of our team, and that's huge. And it's to me, coming from a little teeny weeny dealership in Bozeman, Montana, to have your guys know who I am, Jair, Mario, that's important. And so I roll that into, I tell the same thing to my advisors. It's important that you make these friends with your customers. And I have always had a following no matter where I worked. I went to funerals. I went to weddings. I went and saw new babies at the hospital because these were people that mattered to me. And in fact, I was looking at my Facebook friends list, and it's probably 3/4 or half to 3/4 of former customers because they care. And I still get phone calls from them. And this is what I was telling my guys. I go, this is what you want. You want that phone call from the person that moved to Texas to say, hey, I've got my car at the dealership here. They're telling me I need this. What do you think? Right. I said, then you've gained their trust. And, where they walk in and toss keys and say, hey, if it's over 1,500, call me. Otherwise, do what you need to do. That's critical. And to me as a person, that was quite humbling, and it was an honor to be trusted that much with somebody's vehicle and money. And I keep directing my guys. It's like, you got to get to this point with these people because that's going to be key. That's where you don't work so hard for those sales. And you guys are just kind of like, the cream in the coffee. You just make it work. And it's great.
The best thing is when your customers do that, when they call you and they I'll even call the dealership in Texas for them. Mm-hmm. No, I will.
Oh, absolutely. I've done that as well. Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah. Okay, if it's all right. You talk about on the sales side, your best deals were always with the repeat or referral customers. Because that trust level was there. You talk about the trust barriers and stuff. But I kind of want to circle back to how this started today. You mentioned that, service managers or GMs that are looking at the program might be watching this podcast. And I want to say that I didn't know nothing about the service department when I went back there, other than they screwed up a lot of my customers. And so the program, all you have to do is apply it. That's what's really cool. That's what I've seen is, a guy who went in there and really was lost in the beginning. And you remember, actually, Jair, and you were at the first time.
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about net to gross and ELR and all this stuff. I had no clue. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool is the program forces you to focus on the numbers. The program basically gives you it's like a doggone instruction manual, and if you just look at it, apply it, there is some selling involved to your staff, but the reality is it's laid out before you. So you have a blueprint for success. And if you just follow it, I did it and I didn't know anything about the service department. Mm-hmm. So, that's what I want to make sure I get out today in this podcast, is that if there's people out there that are looking at it and they're leery of it, all you got to, my grandmother used to tell me, if you can read, you can cook. Mm. Well, guess what?
I like that.
If you can read, you can cook. That's all I have to say about that.
That's good. Anybody?
That's a good one.
So two questions in closing, and I might regret this. What's wrong with the Cowboys that they never can get out of the first round of the playoffs? And the second one is, any interesting conversations with your spouses? Like, did you come home from boot camp or like anything and tell your wife, your spouse, like?
I'm going to cackle the first one because the Cowboys, this is their year. So they've been rebuilding. I don't know.
Did they get rid of Jason Garrett?
But this has been no. But you're going to get work past that. That season.
And Dak Prescott is suspended for 6 games. Just so you know.
Yeah, bro, I was wrong about that at the gym.
What?
I told Zeke. I told Gary this morning at the gym because I had read
lied to me
that he wasn't going to get suspended. 6 games.
Oh,
that's a little rough. Any interesting spouse stories, or is that too weird of a question?
I'm going to say my spouse is super supportive of me taking this job, because I went out on a limb, and I don't know, I've been married 27 years, so I think that you got to have the support of your wife to do, or your husband to do it. I don't know if you're married. Nope. To do a job like this, because the reality is, and you and I talk quite often, Gareth, and our wives are like, you coming home for dinner? Are you going to, are we going to do something this weekend? So they have to commit just as much as you commit. Mm-hmm. And the reality is if you have that, it makes it really cool. And a lot of times in my essay, my wife's the one who actually said to me, when I said Rome wasn't built in a day, she's the one who told me every day they were building, and it's like, and it's just, I've just embraced that. It was like just something that was really cool. Because it's like, you know what, you're right. It wasn't built in a day, but every single day they were building. And that's what we're doing, So, you pick up if you listen to your wives or your husbands, you might actually pick something up,
It's good.
Damon, what do you got? I know you got something.
Well, like you, Rabbit, my wife has been my biggest cheerleader. She was the one that convinced me to move 1,500 miles away to take a job on the other side of the country, especially after she had been in her job for 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about taking a chance. So there was a lot of pressure, but she has been my biggest cheerleader and my biggest confidant. A lot of just about all my success goes to her. Because if you don't have somebody in your corner, whether it be a GM or a GSM, spouse, you're not gonna make it. You're not. You have to have that support system in your corner to achieve the success, and that's really the only way to put it. You're never gonna do it alone. How many times have I called you or texted you on a Sunday night? Mm-hmm. And Jair, and I can always tell when Gary doesn't want to talk to me, because the text will go dark. It'll be like 1 or 2, and then he ghosts me for like a day or 2, because it's just like, just shut up, please. But to have that kind of support, so not only family, but G and Jair and Chris, who at first was very, very just scary.
Oh, I'm scary?
Oh yeah.
I never get why
Yes.
people think I'm scary.
Well, it's the intimidation factor until
Inside I'm soft and sweet.
it was the intimidation factor right up until the point of this is a safe place and we're all here to support each other. And then it all changed. And, just again, none of us could do what we do without the support of our spouses, our family, and our team.
I was listening to a series of interviews with entrepreneurs, like guys that have built big companies, billionaires, basically. And it's funny, they said exactly that same thing. They're like, if you think somehow that you're going to do this on your own without any support, you're wrong.
Well, it's one of the things in Think and Grow Rich. It's one of the chapters. Spouse.
It's spouse, it's friends, it's family, it's it's
who you hang out
mentors,
with.
it's everybody. It's who you hang out with. It's everything. It's all those factors combined, plus your own grit and determination
Tequila?
and all that. And it's tequila.
Is tequila a chapter in Think and Grow Rich?
It's rabbit. It's everything.
No, it is. It's good. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody, and we will have a lot of fun the next couple days. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. I hope everybody listening has a great week, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you.